S.S.S. Vaeira, Tovshin Pei Dalet. You know, the nice thing, the lessons that we learn in the Torah these weeks are really lessons that are going to be very negea to us when it comes very, very shortly to the Geula from our Gullus. And the one thing that we see is that last week we were talking about Shibud Mitzrayim. We were deep in the work, in the slave labor of Mitzrayim. And this week, just 1 week later, things are starting to change dramatically. They're beginning to change. And our theme switches from Golus Mitzrayim. Right away this week now, we're talking about Geulas Mitzrayim. And as the wheels of the Geula begin to turn, Moshe Rabbeinu is sent into Paroi when Hashem mentions and reminds us that the Geula is coming. He tells Moshe Rabbeinu, gives Moshe Rabbeinu different instructions, different things to do, to go into Paroi, show him some signs, show him some things that will prove that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the one, and is the one that's in control of everything in the world. And as we get a little bit further in the Parsha, the Makkos begin, the 10 Makkos that we know that Mitzrayim, they're going to be punished with. And Hashem begins to punish the Mitzrayim, to punish Mitzrayim for the Shibud, for the work, and for the way they treated Klal Yisrael over the past many years. And we know, of course, as we always say, Ma'aseh Avos Siman Labanim, and it's something that we all hope for. Not only do we hope that the Geula will in 1 minute, it'll turn around from things that look so bleak, things that look so tough. In 1 minute, it could turn around and we go from the Shibud and the Gullus, we go to, absolutely go to the Geula. And not only do we want to have the Geula, but we want it to also be Ma'aseh Avos Siman Labanim, that those who oppress and those who torture and those who torment Klal Yisrael will get their fair share. They will also get their makas. And as we have spoken about in the past, that the happenings, the things that happen in Mitzrayim, and the messages that come along with it are really indications as to what we need to think about and the things that are actually going to come to us and the way that we are going to, there are signs of the way that we are going to bring about our Geula. And the Nesivos Shalom brings a medrash in Shemois Rabbah Aleph Chav Ches, if you want to look it up. And the medrash says on the pasuk of when Moshe Rabbeinu last week, the Torah tells us Moshe Rabbeinu went out, and when he went out, he saw Klal Yisrael Vayar b'siv lo yisam. The Torah says Moshe saw their siv lo yisam. What does that mean? So the Nesivos Shalom says that when Moshe Rabbeinu went out and he saw Klal Yisrael working, Moshe Rabbeinu saw not only the work that they were doing, but he saw that Klal Yisrael never had any rest from their work. So the Medrash tells us that Moshe Rabbeinu went to Paroi, and he said, you know, if someone has a slave, if someone has a worker, if you don't give them any time off, if you don't give them 1 day a week off, eventually that worker is going to collapse. He's not going to be able to work anymore. You don't give him 1 day off a week, you work him to the bone every week. It's a law of diminishing returns. He's going to, eventually, he's going to collapse. And so Paroi, he's saying to Paroi, you know, Paroi, this is what's going to happen. You're working Klal Yisrael the way you're working them. And he says to Paroi, you never give them any rest. And this is what's going to happen to your slaves. This is what's going to happen to the people that are working for you. So you know, Paroi thought about it. And the Medrash says that Paroi heard about that and he agreed. He said, you know, Taka, maybe you're right. Maybe they're all going to crash and I'm not going to be able to get any work out of them. So he told Moshe Rabbeinu, you know what? I'll give you 1 day a week. They could have 1 day a week off. So Moshe Rabbeinu went and he set up the Shabbos as a day of rest from work for the Bnei Yisrael. And the Medrash further says that when Paroi, later on at the end of last week's Parsha, Paroi said, Tichbad ha'avoda. Well, what happened? He gave them a day off, and he gave them better work conditions, but then Paroi changed his mind. He said, Tichbad ha'avoda, you need to make the work even tougher, even harder. They have to work even harder. Tichbad ha'avoda, right? That they have to, not only what they were doing before, I need them, these Anoshim, I need them to perform even better. I need them to work even harder. Because why? Dr. Medrash, what Paroi was seeing was that the Bnei Yisrael were receiving such strength of Ruchnius from the Shabbos Kodesh. Not only the physical rest, but their spirit was revived. That every Shabbos they got together and they gave each other chizuk. And what a Yid gets from the Shabbos, Paroi actually saw it on them. So what did Paroi said? Paroi said, no. This Shabbos is too much. Give them more work. No more keeping Shabbos and getting the chizuk from the Shabbos. They would get chizuk and they would give each other chizuk that soon Hashem is going to take us out of Mitzrayim. Don't worry, Hashem hasn't forgotten about us. And Paroi didn't like that. Because when a Yid has chizuk, when a Yid feels that Hashem is with him and Hashem is taking care of him, he's a different person. Paroi saw that. So he said, Tichbad ha'avoda, Shabbos is canceled, give them more work 7 days a week. But one thing, the lesson that we learn from here, we see from here though, that the beginning of hope, then in the time of Mitzrayim, and it applies to us too, the beginning of hope and the beginning of Geula, and the seed that Moshe Rabbeinu planted in the Bnei Yisrael, the seed of hope was what? It was Shabbos Kodesh. Chazal tell us in Vayikra Rabbah Gimel, Chazal say that Ein Yisrael Nigolin Ela B'Zchus Shabbos, that the Shabbos is going to be a very, very big part of us getting out of Golus. Shabbos has the koyach, Chazal tell us, Shabbos has the koyach to bring Geula to the world. Why? Because within Shabbos lies the two most important factors that make up every Yid. Shabbos is the Yesod of Emunah and is also the Yesod of Kedusha. What's the Emunah of Shabbos? The Emunah of Shabbos, we know, is that Hashem created everything. We have an emunah, we believe that Hashem created everything from nothing in 6 days. And the Pasuk tells us about Shabbos, Vayivorech Elokim es yoim hashvi'i, right? Everybody, we say it on Friday night, we say it in Kiddush, Vayivorech Elokim es yoim hashvi'i, Vayikadesh oisoi, says in Nesivos Shalom, that you can read this Pasuk, that Hashem made the Shabbos by Kadesh Oisoi. He gave Shabbos the special power to be the wellspring of Kedusha in the world. It's the Emunah and the Kedusha of Shabbos then that bring what? They bring Geula to the world. And the Divrei Shmuel brought down here in the Nesivos Shalom, the Divrei Shmuel says that during these weeks of Shovavim, now we're in the weeks of Shovavim this year, Shovavim Tat, which is from Parshas Shemois through Parshas Tetzaveh. The Divrei Shmuel says that during these weeks of Shovavim, everybody knows that we can accomplish so much in growth this time of the year, in the areas of being misakin things in our lives, in Kedusha. But, says the Divrei Shmuel, the greatest potential that we have for tikkun during these weeks is on the Shabbos. On each of the Shabbosos, from Parsha Shemois, Vaeira, Boy, B'Shalach, Yisrael, Mishpatim, and this year, because it's a leap year also, Teruma and Tetzava, the biggest tikkun we could do is on the Shabbos. Because Shabbos, like we said, Shabbos brings us to the ultimate Dveikis, Bashem, Beini Uvein B'nei Yisrael. Shabbos is between HaKadosh Baruch Hu and Klal Yisrael, between Hashem and us. And when Hashem helps us and gives us that opportunity to be close to Him, that is the ultimate Geula Shlema. Because we know, as we've said many times, that if we are close to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, we're doing everything that the Torah wants. We reach that level of Uvoy Sidbak, and we've said many times from the Nesivos Shalom, Boy Sidbak is the tachlis of all the Taryag mitzvahs, that all 613 mitzvahs are 613 different ways to the mitzvah of Uboy Sidbak, to cleave to and be close to Hashem. And that is what Shabbos Kodesh does. That is why Shabbos is the thing that will actually, like Chazal says, that the Geula is going to come through the Shabbos. The Baal Shem Tov HaKadosh, Zechus Yakan Aleinu, he says something very, very beautiful. He says that just as every Yid needs to daven about the Golus of Klal Yisrael, we know we daven L'Yushalayim Ircha B'Rachamim Tashuv and Semach David. We daven for the Geula of the Klal of Klal Yisrael. So too, every Yid, every person needs to daven for your own individual Golus HaPrat. Every person has their things that, regarding certain things, they're in the hands of the Yetzer Hara, that when you are mispalel for Geula, not only should you be mispalel for the Geula of Klal Yisrael in general, that Mashiach should come, but a person should also be mispalel for the Geula of a prat, for the Geula of your individual person, a Geula from your own personal Yetzer Hara. As we say Friday night in the Zmira, Sheterachameni Oid B'Golusi. B'Golusi is your own personal Golus. Sheterachameni Oid B'Golusi L'Goleni U'La'Oyer Libi L'Avodosecha. Everything in the singular, talking about your own individual, our own personal Golus. And it is the Shabbos that brings Geula in every way to the world at large, the world of Klal Yisrael, and also to our own world. And the same way in Mitzrayim, it is the Shabbos when Moshe Rabbeinu was able to negotiate and get that day off, a day that Klal Yisrael sat and gave each other chizuk, received chizuk from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and that's when they reminded themselves that Hashem will bring the Geula, a chance to give chizuk to each other, a chance to receive chizuk from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The same way it's going to be in our generation, Maaseh Avos, Siman Labanim. And what we have to think about, and the lesson we have to take out of this week's Parsha, and we have to take out of this week's Shir, is that every one of us has to analyze and to introspect and to look and to see how we spend our Shabbos. Is our Shabbos spent the way Shabbos is supposed to be spent? Do we eat our sudos the way they're supposed to be? Do we treat the members of our family, of our friends, our people, the way we talk, the way we walk, the way we eat on Shabbos, what we do on Shabbos? Rebbeinu Shalom doesn't just want us to remember that Shabbos is a sign, that Shabbos is Shabbos. Hashem wants us to know what to do with the Shabbos. And this is the perfect week when the Parsha begins to talk about Geula, and we should all be Zoicha to improve our Shabbos, to take out of the Shabbos what we should, and through that we should be Zoicha to the Geula Shalema.